everyone, welcome to the Race Concepts channel. I'm Joel Joseph, founder and technical head of Race Concepts Motorsport. We are here to share our thoughts and our success with the Honda Accord. The Accord has been a project that we've been pursuing for the last 5 years. We've had a fair share of success, and a huge amount of development has happened over the years, and unfortunately we've never been able to cover it. So right after the event that concluded on Sunday, I think it's time that we really talk about the car, the stuff under the hood, and what that car is really all about, and what we are really up to, and how the last weekend went. So the car that we are talking about here is the Honda Accord 2.4 turbo. The car puts out close to 800 horsepower in its current trim in a rather conservative style. There's a lot of work that has to be done, because over the years we've converted that car from a typical front wheel drive 160 horsepower package to eventually pushing it close to 600 horsepower in its very first trim. We gave the car as a turnkey project to our friend, his name is Sagar from Pune, and the car was our first all-out project, which was built and delivered without any support or anything, straight into an event. The whole idea of the car is to encourage more and more people to get into drag racing by giving them a very easy solution which doesn't require any maintenance. It only requires your effort to strap into the car, wear your helmet, and then get hooked, pour some fuel, and check tire pressure, and that's it, you go for it. So that was the idea behind it. So it is a first turnkey project, where you don't even need a crew member for it. You possibly just need a friend to help you with tires and doing basic stuff. Nothing required, periodic maintenance. If needed, the car can be sent to Race Concepts. We can go through a thorough check and send it back. This was the idea behind the turnkey Accord project. So when we first delivered the car went out to Amby Valley straight in December 2019 and did a 12.7 second run. The car had absolutely no traction. It had very basic 15-inch Hosier slicks, and it had no LSD, stock gearbox, and doing that was an incredible timing. And then obviously we tried to push more power, and then it never got any quicker because the wheel spin and the traction issue was all the more evident. And eventually we added an LSD, then we went shorter on the gearbox, and still with personally me also driving the car, the best we could clock was only a mid 12 second pass. So it was eventually decided that traction is a huge concern, and then I took a call on actually making it the first all-wheel drive car Accord in the world. It's definitely the first CM5 Accord in the world to have the all-wheel drive layout. The entire chassis, the platform, does not support an all-wheel drive layout, although many think it's very easy to just swap out. So we have to create our own rear end for it, and obviously use a mix mash of Honda parts and a few other things, and then we have to recreate a lot of things. We have to machine a lot of new components and go through the whole hog to make it a rear wheel drive all-wheel drive car, and keeping the same standard power output of 600 plus that we had. And then eventually we slightly pushed it, and we sent the car this year early on to Amby Valley for an event. Straight out of the box, the car did 11.4 in the hands of Sagar. So the car was extremely promising, and then we said, okay, now is the time to go forward with it. And then we started developing the car further, and then unfortunately the last event that I personally took part in the month of May, which was the first edition of this year's Room event at Taneja, the car developed a lot of clutch issues, because the kind of power that we were really starting to push with it, the take it. So we had to retire the car on day 2. The day 1 we managed to win, and day 2 we had to retire, and we couldn't really manage to fix anything, because in a matter of 1 hour that the event runs, there's hardly any maintenance time. So we decided to just not pursue it, and we called off the weekend. And then the last weekend is when we had a great time with the Accord. Interestingly, we also found that with the H pattern gearbox, there is a lot of concern with upshifting, and when you run a synchro mesh gearbox and we're pushing close to or north of 700 to 800 horsepower, it becomes a little difficult to shift a synchro mesh gearbox. So we had to quickly come up with a sequential system, and we did in a matter of couple of days. And we converted the car to a sequential shift all-wheel drive system, and with no electronic aids, we just went straight into a mechanical sync with all the parts, and then we went straight into the event. So the event that we entered this time was the 11th edition of the Rome series, which has been happening since 2016. I've been a regular at all the Rome editions, and pretty much for the longest of period till about 2019, I've been winning all the Rome events, all the events that happen at Jakkur and Taneja in the open classes with the Honda City VTEC Dragster. So it was time for us to see what the Honda Accord has in store for us. And being the INDRC, which is a drag racing national championship, we were leading the championship, and in the Indian Open 4002cc class. So we wanted to really get the spot at the top, wanted to really get the car to win, set a record time, and the car is so close to doing a 10-second pass that we really wanted to push the limits and unleash what the car can do. Now, this is the only car which is currently on the grid, which is a fully built car, which is ground up. The chassis is built, the transmission is a built unit, the engine is completely bespoke, it's literally built by hand. The entire car is put together by us by hand, and every component from the arms to the suspension components to the braking system, everything is non-standard. There's nothing Accord about it. It's all what we have put together, engineered, re-engineered, recreated, and redesigned. So that's how the car is. It looks like an Accord on the outside, but it is absolutely not on the inside. So it is a complete unicorn in today's drag racing space. If you see, there are fast cars today. There is a GTR, there is a Audi R8, and there are a couple of other cars which today is in true spirit of racing and drag racing and building things. It kind of is a very weird thing that's going on, but I think that's also a way to look at it, because until about 5-8 years ago, 6-7 years ago maybe, Indian drag racing had very two clear segments, which was the Indian cars and then the foreign cars. So a car like a GTR or a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or a Porsche or anything or an Audi would be considered as an import, because it clearly isn't assembled or manufactured in India. So they were considered clearly as import, and they were classified as foreign cars. Now the cars that were considered as Indian cars were production series cars, not even CBU and CKD, cars which are off the line production, which have sold more than 2,000 units, and which are off the run mill cars, like any Honda or a Suzuki or a Maruti or a Mitsubishi or anything for that matter. However, there was a huge change in the regulations, I think from 2020 onwards, and this allowed everybody to now compete in the open space. So today, a Maruti S-Team unfortunately goes against a GTR, in terms of how they compete in. Maybe they don't match too close in terms of performance, but they are not apple to apple comparison, is what I'm trying to say. So because of the shift in the regulation, it has now become a more premium game, where somebody with a premium car and with a lot of budget to splurge and spend on it today is quite easily able to be at the top. Now that's a very different story for people who are trying to build cars, who are trying to engineer, and who are trying to be in the grassroots level or at the enthusiast level or at the the spiritual level of going racing. Because in our country, we all know that it's very difficult to access motorsport and to get racing parts, and then with all the tight regulations that we have with import and with the duty and with all these things, it isn't very feasible for most people to have a very fast car, and not everybody has the money or the resources at their disposal to do all these things. So it's sort of become like a big boys game, if I may say, but it is what it is. The regulations are what they are, and we have no complaints. We are looking forward then to up the game. Even in the past, we used to rival our cars against supercars. We have beaten supercar. So I don't think it's a big deal if we have to look at it that way. So nevertheless, so our challenge into the weekend started. We had day one where we had our scrutiny and our whole practice run and all of that, where we ended up doing a very quick 11-second pass off the trailer, and we discovered a small problem with the traction. And then we had to quickly get the car back into the shop and make some changes, and then we went back on day two. And day two was more of a disappointment because day two was the first day of the race event, which was technically the round four of the championship. And while I'm leading the championship, we want to really put the races in the bag, win, and then grab as many points as possible, and then get back a championship win after many years in drag racing, because this is the first year we've actually entered back into the drag racing, and after 5 year or 4.5 year break, it's good to be back. So day two of the event and day one of the championship basically was quite a letdown, because the all-wheel drive system completely failed at the rear. The torque bias and the vectoring that happens in the rear completely gave up, and we had absolutely almost no drive at the rear, so much so that the car was almost like a full-fledged front-wheel drive car. And we managed to do a best of a 12.2 second run, and unfortunately we had to line up next to other cars which are technically as fast as us, or probably we are quicker, but unfortunately the run looks very looks the other way because we had issues. So at times people want to share those videos and say that they have a quicker car, but we are fine with it. Issues are issues, and in racing nothing is defined. Things can go wrong for anyone, and at the highest level or the lowest level, problems are problems. So we then moved into day three by bringing the car back to the shop, fixing a few things with the rear end, and we were fingers crossed that the car should now work. And we put a lot of time and effort to quickly set things up. We have absolutely no way to measure or test or anything, and we had to straight go into the event on Sunday morning to see what the car can do. And thankfully, when we arrived on Sunday morning, the car was right up there. It had the traction at the rear. All the work that we did through the night really worked, and the car was really the best version of what the car ever was. Off the trailer in the first pass, we were able to do a mid 11-second run by just completely lifting off past 300 meters, which was a great sign, and all things looked very good. And then we had two more passes after that, which were part of the official qualifying runs. And then after these two passes, we get to know that the timing device did not record the time. So they wanted us to do a rerun, which I clearly didn't want to, because the car has limited number of passes that we want to do, because there's a lot of stress that we're putting through the driveline. It's not the engine, it's not the power levels that are the concern, it is the kind of things that we're pushing underneath. So we wanted to do a bit of maintenance, check things, and then do a run. So we requested for some time to do maintenance, and which the organizer and the stewards obliged to, and we're very thankful for that. And we managed to do some checks on the car. We had to do some maintenance, and we got the car back on the grid at 12 p.m. and we took a run, and we were very stoked to get 11.2 second run. Although in one of the passes on our device, the official time didn't show up, but then on our device we saw 11.1 second run. So the car was extremely potent, very capable. We were shy of 10 seconds. We could have easily gone a lot into deep into tens maybe, but unfortunately we had a small issue with one of the wastegates developing a fault, and there was not much that we could do because there's no time to really dial, test, and optimize things. So it is what it is. Now, like they say, every story has an interesting twist to it. So that's where it all started. Now the car was now in the Parc Fermé. After the car has finished its runs, and once it's officially clocked a time, the car is to go into a confined area where the car has to be parked for official scrutiny. So if there's anything that the officials want to check, that's the place where the car's held for an hour or two or maybe 30 minutes at minimum, and then post which they're released. Now here's what happened, that we know that a lot of people weren't too happy that we had to do the time and clock the time, and of course all eyes are on us with respect to how an event goes. We were then called by the officials an hour or two later, saying that we pulled the car out of Park Ferme uninformed. Now here's the twist: the official announcement was made, and the marshal who was at the Park Ferme asked us to remove the car from Park Ferme. The marshal was quite well informed, and the first time they asked us to remove the car, we did not remove because it didn't seem like it had crossed 30-minute or 1 hour window after the race was over, so to which we denied removing the car. And then much later, again a request came to remove the car, and we had to take the car from there, and we took the car straight into our pits, lined the car up for the next final run of the day, and then we finished the next final run, and then the car was again back in the park for me. That's when I was called by the officials, and I was to invited to a road shock that we would probably be disqualified because the car was removed from Park Ferme. They claimed that the car was removed from Park Ferme without being informed, and we went against the time window. Unfortunately, the marshal who was guarding the Park Ferme wasn't too aware of how things work and how important that Park Ferme in itself is. So while he asked us to remove the car the first time, apparently there was an announcement that said that the M2 category car shouldn't, should be left in the Park Ferme, while the others can be asked to be removed. Now this was not a very clear message, because this is an announcement that's coming on the PR system. So while I had to do my other runs and I had to run about a few other things, I obviously did not hear this. Now it is the marshal's responsibility to disallow people from removing cars, parking cars inside the Park Ferme, but unfortunately it was missed out, and we were asked to remove, and not sure if he was clear that our car was in the M2 category or not. The car was asked to be removed, and then we took the car out, and then when the officials confronted him to ask was the car taken against his permission or not, he said that the car was taken against his permission, which we don't want to dispute any further, because it is what it is, and once told, words can't be taken back. So it goes to show how sometimes the carelessness of a few people, whether it is on the organizing side or on any front where a competitor is putting all his hard work and effort, with a little bit of lack of knowledge or with some sort of misinformed mindset, can completely ruin the chances of somebody really putting all the effort out there. And it was heartbreaking for me to lose a championship right there, getting disqualified, and letting somebody who was way down the order win the championship. So that's how the weekend went. But on the positive note, we are very happy that those 3 days that we had with the Accord, that car really shined. We had a lot of passes with the car. Today, to be building a 800 horsepower Accord, the K24, and going through it, back to back. The car's engine was built in 2019, so it's over 5 years since we last torqued the cylinder head bolts, and we've been putting it through all kinds of abuse, and we've been pushing it harder and harder and harder, and probably in the last 5 years we've done over 100 passes with the car easily, and the car just shines. And now with the new avatar, with the car that is what it is today, doing 11.1 second best pass, we know it's right around the corner. And with the fact that we had a lot of issues with the boost system, with a wastegate malfunction, we clearly know what is in store. But most importantly, we are very thankful to the organizers for having organized great events like this. The sport will only grow when more and more events happen, and more competitors come into the sport, and for us to be pushing the envelope with our bills and to provide better support to our clients and our fan base, and to come up with interesting products and race bills. I think events have to happen, and the step in which the sport is going with drag racing and with circuit racing and with time attack and various other formats that are trying to bring up grassroots level of motorsport, I think it's fantastic. Well, just to further mention a few feedback pointers to organizers who run drag race events is, when a car is running a fully modified trim, it's been discussed quite a few times in meetings with the federation and with meetings with the organizers, that a dedicated crew member, one or two people, should be permitted to be present at the launch pad area or the area behind the launch pad where maintenance work, basic checks could be done. Unfortunately, during this event, the bouncers had to clear everybody, and we had nobody there to take care of the car after the pass was made. And this was a concern that is faced by a lot of other competitors too. So I'm voicing a combined version. Now, cars which are bolt-ons and cars which are, your everyday cars, they can just do a quarter mile pass, come back, and just take a rerun, because there's not much that needs to be attended to. But that isn't the case of a built car. Now, to the whole circus of the Parc Fermé, unfortunately, where we were disqualified. Now, we are posting a video of bloggers' version of what happened after 5 o'clock, after the Parc Fermé was let loose for the spectators.
Car is just very close to my place. These are all the participants. Check this Zen RC race concepts.
Now, Parc Fermé is a confined area, like I previously said, where the cars after an event, they are allowed to be parked there, and for a period of 30 minutes or 1 hour, they have to be held in case of a technical protest. And in case there is a technical protest or something that is to be looked at, the officials would go through all the cars, and if they find something not compliant, they would disqualify the car. And while that process happens, all the cars have to stay untouched. Even a competitor is not allowed to touch their own cars, and nobody is allowed to enter that confined area. Funnily enough, the entire area was open to spectators, to fans, everyone, and the clip there shows people blogging over the cars that are inside the Parc Fermé. Cars were being touched, cars were being opened, people were opening the bonnets of cars, people were opening doors of the cars, and I even saw a few cars being taken out of Parc Fermé, and there was absolutely no marshal to look at anything. Now, this is unfortunately the sorry state of anything where it kind of looks like the rule is one-sided and the rule is not very equal for all. So while we got disqualified for a Parc Fermé infringement that they claim we did, while we removed the car after an hour and 20 minutes, people were let loose inside the Parc Fermé to do all kinds of things, and cars were not really looked at because the event was over. 4:30 is when the last car did an official time run, and then the event was technically over. So post which there's not much that the organizer or anyone wanted to put their head into, to look at Parc Fermé. So this is unfortunately what should be avoided. Now, things can't be taken back. Obviously, we can't go back to the federation to review such things and go through this and reinstate our championship. That's not going to happen, and we don't wish either for those things. We're absolutely clear that the federation did a good job, and whether it's my disqualification or whatever it is as per the books. But it's the part of the marshals or the people who are guarding the whole system that need to know what's the importance of a staging area, a Parc Fermé, and whom to allow and whom not to allow. So this is our bit that we want to also send out as a message, as a feedback to the organizers who organize drag races in India. Now, again, I would like to conclude to say that we are really looking forward for more and more with the Accord. The car has been a great, fantastic build. It did not seem so much of a important build 5 years ago, because when we decided to do this build, and when the owner Sagar approached us to build an Accord, the first question I asked him is why an Accord? Because it's a lot of real estate. It's huge, it's heavy, and it's everything that a drag car is not meant to be. But then we said, why not? Now, to take a car that looks like a ship, which is extremely large, wide and tall and everything, to now do 11 second, to go from 17 seconds stock to cut 6 seconds, and still with a huge headroom to go quicker and quicker. I think we've come a long way, and we are really looking forward to it. There are a lot of videos in this video of the cars on board and all the launches and a few things that have happened in the process. As I hope you guys enjoyed this review of the weekend, and looking forward to catching you all more and more often on YouTube. Thank you. Cheers.